We go to the doctor, some of us once a year, some of us a little bit less frequently, but when we do go, we invariably get tests done and hope our results fall within the normal range. But what does that even mean? Is that enough? My extra special guest today will explain it all. What are the results of the test? Today is the day. Let's make this happen. In the kitchen with me today is a very extra special guest, clinical nutritionist Josh Catalis, who's also my husband. Hey, homie.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So we're here today. I want you to explain blood work and how it works because we all, as I mentioned, we all go to the doctor, we get our test done, and then we have no idea what they mean. And I just want to start by sharing a story with you, with our watchers, because as you know, I had Crohn's. It was about 7 years ago, and almost 7 years ago exactly now, I was going from doctor to doctor and I was getting all these tests done because I knew that something wasn't right, but they kept coming back normal. But like the stool samples I was giving, full of like blood and other delicious things, were far from normal, and my blood work couldn't have been optimal for sure. So how can you explain that?
Well, really what they're looking for when they look at blood tests is they're looking for end-stage disease process. And really that's what the blood shows, because the blood, it's the river of our body, and it wants to be as constant as possible all the time. It does whatever it has to do that. So once certain things actually show up in the blood, you've already been deficient or inflamed for a period of time, and it's gotten to a point where now it's showing up in the blood. When we're in the normal range, it's really just saying that there's an absence of disease. And that's what the medical system's based on, absence of disease, right? Once you're out of critical care, they send you home and you're left to your own devices. But what we want to do is we want to get into an optimal range, and that's a completely different story.
So explain the difference.
Yes. So normal range is really just looking at what most of the population is in, and most of the population is sick. They're not healthy. The optimal range is a state where you have a very, very small chance of actually getting any condition or disease.
So when we look at those graphs, like, you know, when you get your blood work back and you have those graphs and it's like you're within this range, but you're at the low end. So that would sort of be, you know, what we call subclinical.
And subclinical is very interesting because we have people who have a disease or a diagnosed condition where we actually can name it. And we have people who are healthy. And then we have this in-between, which can't be detected or picked up by the medical system, really. And that's what we call subclinical. So kind of under the radar, where we can't actually give it a name or a diagnosis. And that is where a lot of people think they can't do much.
But or they're told it's all in their head.
And that's where prevention and natural medicine comes in.
So let's give an example, and I want to use vitamin D because, you know, that's so prevalent. Apparently everyone's deficient suddenly in vitamin D. So how do we know what people should be taking and what the ideal range is?
So we want to determine how much we should take based on our blood. And this is where we could actually use blood work to our advantage. However, Health Canada looks, well, in Canada, right, and also the US, they look at vitamin D blood levels, and they say you should be in this range so you don't get rickets. And rickets is the classic vitamin D deficiency condition.
So they're giving us the range enough to not be sick, but not enough to be healthy.
And that's actually low end to 75 in Canadian units to about 200. Now, there's been tons of studies that have come out that say that vitamin D needs to be in the optimal range to prevent like every cancer at this point, right? Especially breast and prostate cancer. I mean, there's hundreds of studies now indicating this.
And depression.
And for that, you have to be a lot higher in depression than the range to just avoid rickets. And that's about 50 points higher. You want to be at least 125 to actually prevent all those diseases. And I mean, cancer's the top killer along with heart disease. So I think everyone wants to prevent it.
Can you explain what you did to help in your practice and help your clients?
Well, I've been coaching clients for so long on getting their own blood work and taking control of their health. And firstly, the main reason to do that, firstly, is to double check. To make sure they didn't miss anything. And that's happened multiple times. But the next step is to actually become your own advocate and read your own blood work. So in the Catalis system, It's a complete health records organizer.
This is awesome, especially for people who really like to organize stuff.
Yeah. And in the back portion, you can actually read your own blood work and figure out what your optimal range is.
So what do you think is the greatest benefit to keeping our own records?
Well, there's plenty of studies that actually show that when we take control of our health and are an active member in our healthcare plan, results are increased, are improved.
Yeah.
They've really noticed this with people with cancer because usually people are just put through the system and bounced back and forth from this treatment to that treatment.
Right.
And they don't really have much say. But when they play an active role in the decision making and the process, they have much better results.
And I can tell from my own experience and in using, you know, I'm fortunate that I have Josh at the breakfast table with me, that, you know, I had cysts on my thyroid when I was dealing with Crohn's disease, autoimmune, and then I had it tested a few years later, and I was able, having my records, having them organized, to see that the cysts had actually disappeared, well, virtually disappeared, but the decrease in size, and just having my records and being able to have a quick reference showed me that what I'm doing is working. Yeah. And that's really helpful too.
And definitely you can see things regress as you saw, and you can actually see things progress years before they actually become a problem.
This is so helpful. I can't believe it doesn't exist.
It does.
It does now. It does now. So where can people get a copy of this, find out more?
They can find out more on my website, joshgatalis.com.
Yes.
And there's lots of information there.
You are so smart. Thank you for joining me. When I first got my copy, I spent an entire afternoon organizing my records, and even knowing what I know, I felt so empowered that I could see clearly what my numbers were, what had gone up, what had gone down, and then take the appropriate measures to make corrections based on the ideal or optimal ranges. We owe it to ourselves and our families to be all over this, as it can be one of the simplest preventative tools out there. The best bits of discussion happens in the comment section. Check out meghantelpner.tv for more inspiration and join my community for more vibrant living, love, and goodness. Thank you for joining me. More on Josh at joshgatalis.com, and you can follow Josh on Twitter at joshgatalis, and this is the Gatalis System. Thanks for joining. Have a great day. Bye.